Okay, we're streaming as well. Started the recording. So hello everyone, hello people in the room. We all four are attending from Chennai office, and then there are some people who are attending from, of course, from different parts of India, and also people from different parts of the world. Thank you everyone for joining the BizKnight Product series. So we're just beginning the first episode today, which is on the topic of building 0 to 1 products. And then we have Sundar Ganesan. So Sundar is sitting opposite to me. So Sundar is a person who's having around, Sundar is working as a senior product manager at Carrot Lane. Sundar really thinks and breathes product and data. I mean, that's his LinkedIn description. But I think that's so totally true. And then he's such a great storyteller. That's what Lalit and I have actually envisioned. We had a conversation before this, and it's really nice actually to hear all the stories that Sundar was telling, and to all the analogies that Sundar was creating to the personal experience and happening. So it's really nice. Before this, Sundar has worked as a product manager with Minglebox and then Matrimony.com and such like reputed companies. So I think today, maybe let's begin. I'll hand over to Sundar for a short introduction, and from there on, we can take it forward. So over to you, Sundar.
Okay, thanks a lot for such a sweet intro. Thank you, Diwakar. Am I audible loud and clear?
Yeah, Sundar.
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. Great. So, building 0 to 1, right? I was just telling Diwakar and Lalit on my journey, and lot of it is serendipity, right? How I started and then where I am right now. There's a lot of building that happens over this last 14 years of product management. I'm an accidental product manager. I became a product manager when product management was not even a thing. Android was not there in the era at that point of time. Android had not launched back in 2008, 2009. And that's when we are trying to build apps for education. And I wrote to this company asking for a Java developer role. This was back in 2008-9 when recession was at the peak, right? And I had to wait for my joining. And then I wrote to this company and I told them about looking for a Java developer role. They said, your profile looks good for a product associate. Why don't you join as a product associate? I had no idea what product associate was. I said, okay, fine, let me take it up. They said, you don't have to write code, but you'll have to tell the developers how to write code. I said, this is very interesting. This is something that I would love to do. I don't have to do the work. I will just have to tell. But that's how product management is perceived, and it's very wrong, right? So there's so many different things that has happened over the last 13, 14 years in my journey as product manager. If I have to just a minute. So this is a very like a famous quote which I keep asking myself, and very true for a lot of people who are building 0 to 1 products, right? When was the last time you did something for the first time? I travel a lot. So for me, travel is something I'm very passionate about. And for me, I take travel as an inspiration for anything that I do. And travel and product management happened around the same time. I started traveling right after graduating from college, and I've traveled all the states in the country. And I tried connecting a lot of my travel stories with the product management stories. And that's how that storytelling came, saying that, hey, I'm good at this. I'm not the best at travel. I'm not the best at product management, but let me try connecting both of these things, where I'll say, I'll create a niche for myself. And can I do something in this travel plus product management? And when Diwakar was asking me about building product for 0 to 1, I was thinking about the topic. I think we had a couple of discussions on what could be the topic. And he pinged me on my daughter's first birthday. So I was like, okay, this is something interesting. And I was very sure that, no, it has to be building 0 to 1. And so this was me on the day of my daughter's first day. And this was at, the second photo was at Bali when we had gone for her birthday at Limpiong temple. So I mean, I know there are women here in the group who can talk more about what happens in pregnancy and what happens in post pregnancy, right? But as a father, right, it has changed me a lot over the last 1 year. If I could tell that one word which could talk about this last 1 year, it's called overwhelming, right? It's everything is overwhelming, and there are a lot of ups and downs that you would have in this journey of the first time your daughter smiles at you, the first time they take a step. All of these are the real ups, right? But there are sleepless nights, right? It's very tough, it's not that easy. And if you try correlating that with building a product from 0 to 1, right, it's very similar, right? On some days you're super excited about building a product, right? You feel that this is the best product that you could ever build, and then there are days where you would self-doubt yourself, right? Is this even right? What can happen if a competitor does something like that? What can happen? Why is somebody else not doing this? It's not that easy, right? I mean, if you are thinking about it, there are 100 other people who are also thinking about the same thing. And lot of product management and building family, right, is very, very similar in that sense. There's a very famous quote by Naval Ravikant which says that it takes a minimum 10 years to raise a child. It takes a minimum 10 years to build a career. I would say it's that same thing, right? 10 years is the minimum time that it would take for you to build a career or to raise a child. And a lot of this is not a very short-term goal, right? You don't build products from 0 to 1 and then you leave it, right? At the same time, there is a lot of difference between building a product from 0 to 1 or 1 to N, right? Let's say 1 to N products, right, requires a lot of more coaching in that sense. 0 to 1 is very different. It's very close to your heart. In 0 to 1, you don't leave your kid to school. The parents take care of the kids. And 1 to 10 or 1 to N, right, that's when you leave your kids to the teacher. And both of this have their own pros and cons. It's very different. Sometimes the parents are, because they are so attached to the kids, right, they might not find what is wrong with the kid. Same thing with your product, right? If you are very obsessed about your product, you might not find out faults in that product. So the way you build your product, the way you wear that hat for a 0 to 1 product is going to be very different from a 1 to N product. And I would strongly feel that it's okay to make a lot of mistakes. And sometimes we are so obsessed with having the best possible product, right? And because of that, you will never launch. I can fairly guarantee that the day, if you look back at your product launches today, after launched it, like after 5-10 years, and if you've not laughed at it, then you've done a very, very bad job. Okay, the day you launch the product, it's probably, and those days are your real highs, right? But you should not celebrate, but you will tend to celebrate that. You will know that, okay, probably you've conquered the world, but you're nowhere close to conquering the world. You might not even know whether the product is going to break tomorrow or are we going to get users for that. So this last 1 year experience, right, was very overwhelming in that sense, in the sense that how do you approach some of these problems? There are like really, really awesome days, right? When your daughter starts talking to you or starts walking, and there are so many such moments. Similarly, in building products also, there are so many such moments where you say that, hey, this is amazing. This idea is amazing. I love to go and build this product. But you will have to realize that you can't do everything on the MVP, right? And it's very abused word, right? I mean, MVP is very abused because everybody is asking for an MVP. But then you realize that, to me, you launch it first. That's my principle. You launch the product. I know it's not going to be great. It's okay to get that criticism, right? If people have not criticized your product, what is there? So the second question somebody is asking any question?
Yeah,
sure. So one of the frameworks that I like, this is from Alok Goel. Alok used to be the CEO of FreeCharge and Redbus earlier. And I remember attending his conference sometime back in 2014. And he asked this great question: what are you building? Are you building a business? Are you building a product? Are you building a feature? Okay. And if you sit and think deep down, right, you will know the answer. Okay, you will know the difference between a business, you know the difference between a product, you know the difference what is a feature. Lot of times, I'll give you an example of Zepto, right? How many of you think that Zepto is a great business? Or 10-minute delivery, just forget about Zepto, we should not take names, it's just a 10-minute delivery, right? 10-minute delivery started as a huge business, right? Everybody thought that 10-minute delivery is going to be the next big thing. But nobody today, after 1.5 years, Zepto launched in 2021 during the pandemic. And now it's become a feature, right? Everybody has that feature. Instamart has that feature, Dunzo has that feature. And nowhere you would see 10-minute delivery in any of these branding. Okay, everybody has changed it to saying that 19-minute delivery or like quick commerce, express delivery. So they have just changed it to. So it's basically a feature, but it's like projected as a business. It's not even a product at one point of time. So you'll have to know the difference between what is a business, what is a product, and what is a feature. A feature is basically a hack, right? You think that, hey, this website doesn't have this, so I will go and build it. But that website can also build that. It's not something that only you can build it, right? Whereas a business is something that it has to be self-sufficient, right? It has to grow on itself. Okay, is that product, whatever you built, has to be 10x better than that. This is a Google philosophy, right? Google says that whatever they are building on is the solution, that current solution versus the proposed solution, is it better by 10x? If it is better by 10x, only then they will take their bet and go build it. Okay, and what is a product, right? A product is something which is where you try to build, eventually it has to be a self-sufficient business. But what we also feel is that it could go and get into a competitor's basket. Okay, so if you clearly differentiate between what are you building, whether you're building a business or whether you're building a product or whether you're building a feature. So Alok explains it really well. Alok says that if you're building a feature, go apply for a job to that company. If you're building a product, see if that can be, like, if that the other company can go and acquire you. Okay, if you're building a business, go build a business. That's the difference between all of these things, three things. And so every time you ask these questions, right, you fundamentally think on what are we building. I'll come to that question on how do I put down my thought process in the later part of the slide. But I want to give you a good example of how we started building something back in 2011 when I was working with a startup called Minglebox. And 2011 is when Android had just launched. There were, few lakh Android phones in India. My CEO comes up and says that, hey, I downloaded this Book My Show app and I booked tickets through Book My Show app. So I think we should build an app for education. We should build a cat prep application. We had no idea how to build an Android application at that time. So Android developers were not there. Nobody had even knew how to build an Android application. And I said, okay, fine, we'll build it. That's how. So the very interesting story is we built the app, we launched the app, and then we went and chest pumped saying that we are the first Indian company to launch an education app and all of those things. And for people who had not known, this is 2011, right? Internet was not that great. Payment gateways were not that great. We still had CC Avenue was the biggest payment gateway. Razorpay was not there. PayU was, I think, PayU was also not there. Or PayU was there probably. They just launched in 2009-10. PayU was not that big. So there were so many challenges, right? And at that point of time, so when you launch a product, you're looking at that metrics day in and day out. You see what is going to happen on that product, how many people have registered, how many people are downloading your app. And we had a paid subscription. We said, okay, chalo, we'll give a paid subscription and we'll somehow collect the money. And then this customer calls from Manipur. And she says that my dad has got me a new Android phone. And we don't have any coaching centers here in Manipur. So I thought I'll download this app and I'll prepare for CAT. So the right picture is actually is called EMA market in Manipur. EMA market is world's largest women-only market in Manipur. And she tells me that we've downloaded this app. Now I want to make a 1-year subscription for this product. How do I make this 1-year subscription? And I was so surprised that somebody is making payment and somebody is making a 1-year subscription. We had put that just for the sake of putting it. We didn't know that people would make 1-year subscription. Then I said, okay, fine, you make the payment, you don't make the payment, I'll give you a coupon code, you can just go and access it. We'll figure out how to collect the money from you later. And that was about 999 rupees. It doesn't make sense for me to travel to Manipur to collect that 999 rupees. So the only option that at that point of time was we went to the most favorite India Post. We said, you send a money order to us. Okay, that was our first payment collection that happened. And we could have integrated payment gateways, but the point is, it's not like how it is today, right? So a lot of these things, right, when you build a product, only then you will realize some of these challenges. And my CEO says that you can't have building products cannot be a PhD project, right? It can't go for 5.5 years, 6 years. It has to be launched. It's okay to launch it, learn from some of these things. Nobody is going to build, and you're not going to be fired on day one, right? It's okay. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. So I have a strong policy saying that go live. Something is better than nothing, not launching it. And there are enough and more research that says, right, that products fail not because of talent or not because of funding or not because of the business model. It's the timing that is everything. I'll give you another example, same example of Minglebox, right? This was in 2011. Okay, at that point of time, Byju's were doing offline coaching in a huge hall in Bangalore. He was doing Byju Ravindran was doing offline coaching, and we were the first education app to launch. If we had launched it in 2020, probably it would have been very different. And if we had stayed on with that app for about 7-8 years, it would have been a very, very different case. But it was not about a product which is bad, right? It is about the timing that would have worked. EdTech worked largely because people were stuck indoors. Kids had to study. They could not go to school. Online was become the most favorable choice of medium. So a lot of things went in favor. So timing is the most important part of any product, right? Any product or any business. Again, I would like to quote what Naval Ravikant said, right? He says that, I'm just changing his quote from business to product. He says that good businesses fail, but good business leaders don't fail. Okay, I'll just change that to product managers, right? Good products can fail. I strongly feel that Minglebox Cat Prep was one of the favorite product that I had built, one very close to my heart. But it failed. Honestly, it did not take off. We had to shut down that business. We had to shut down that product. But good product managers don't fail. They keep trying something different. Here I want to talk about another product experience where back in 2020, around the time when COVID had hit, we started building a rental application for jewelry called Odd-On. It was part of Carrot Lane. It's very simple. It's something like Zoom Car, where you rent out jewelry and people could use that for like 2 days or 4 days. And then the biggest challenge there is it's a 5 lakh rupees jewelry, right? What is the proof that somebody is going to give it back to you? So we had to bring in a lot of checks and balances on the app. Okay, we had to say that, okay, fine, we're going to verify your Aadhaar. We're going to say that, hey, okay, you're going to give us security deposit. And I can't ask for a 5 lakh rupee product. I can't ask for a 2.5 lakh rupee security deposit, right? People don't have that much cash in, like UPI has a 1 lakh limit. People don't have that much money in their credit cards as well. So there are a lot of these challenges, but I'm sure that we will, and we launched twice. We got few orders. There were two interesting set of customers. One customer was a working woman. She used to rent our jewelry every Friday because she used to go to business meetings. So every Friday she used to rent our jewelry to go to business meetings, and then Saturday she will come and return the jewelry. There's another customer who would rent the same jewelry every time. Okay, and she used to go to parties because she wanted others to feel that it is her jewelry. So there are very interesting set of customers that you get, but this also did not work, unfortunately. But I'm very sure that we'll come back and revisit this, right? The market, I was just talking to Lalit and Divakar, the market for rental is picking up slowly. There are several use cases around rental business coming up. And we want to make this really big with respect to, say, P2P lending, where most of the jewelry, right, 95% of the jewelry, time that you have your jewelry, it is in your lockers. So we want to change that. When you are not using it, why don't you give it to others and earn money from that? Your car is idle 90% of the time, but your jewelry is idle 95% of the time. So if there is a cheat sheet for me, right, these are some of things that it's very close to my heart, that I've learned over time, and not just about building product for 0 to 1. But a lot of things is generally about product building, right? You should never build a feature because you can build one, because you have the tech bandwidth or because you have the bandwidth. Does it really solve a problem? Just check if that solves a problem or not. If I go back to Minglebox CAD prep, right, at that point of time, the biggest insight that we got was that students travel 2.5 hours in school buses or in college buses to go to their college. They were very bored. They wanted to do something. Okay. We thought that they would use the CAD prep app to prepare for CAT, but they were playing Talking Tom and other games at that point of time. So you can't build a feature because you can build a feature, right? And the second point, which is very important, is most of the times, right, in life we generally do the easy thing, and we never do the right thing. Sometimes doing the right thing takes a lot of time, right? It's a very painful process. You'll have to take so much time to do the right thing and not the easy thing. And a lot of times we keep asking this. If you go and talk to seniors, right, senior leaders, they would ask for data. But not every time you would not have a data. And when you're building 0 to 1 products, you will not have data every time. You would have stories like these where you should go and believe that I'm going to make this as an habit. I'm going to make customers like these replicate a lot. Okay. And that's a gut that you have, right? It works on that gut. It can't be every time. It can't be like it can't be a very mathematical or a rational way saying that if n is equal to 1, n is equal to this much. So that's something. So it's okay to go with your gut. It's not just say that you can't be like every time you can't have data to validate some of these things. Fourth point is everybody talks about these aha moments in your product. What is the aha moment in your product? Now, because there is an aha moment in your product, it's again abused a lot, that everybody expects aha moment at that point of time in your product. So it's so off. So I'll give an example of birthdays, right? Cake cutting at 12 o'clock in the night has become a very usual thing. Nobody is really surprised by that 12 o'clock cake cutting. Everybody knows that you're going to cut the cake at 12 o'clock. Okay. Now, how are you going to surprise your loved ones? The same way, how are you going to surprise people with the product? Okay. I downloaded an app yesterday, and it didn't do the basic stuffs that a competitor app would do. Okay. And the competitor app, when they did that, it was aha moment. So our expectations for aha moment is really set very, very high. Now if you have to create that aha moment, it has to be a double aha moment. it can't be just like, yeah, I would do this and people would expect it. That is the bare minimum that people would expect. The last cheat sheet that I keep, I'm sorry for being very pessimistic here, but it's very important because it gives you the reality, right? And when you're building products, if you're 100% confident that your product will work, then you're somewhere wrong. At the same time, if you're 100% confident that it won't work, that is also wrong. There has to be a mix of I take this as a life principle. If I used to run marathons. So for running 10 kilometers, I would say that if I am able to do 30% of it on that day, I would be able to do 10 kilometer on the day of marathon. I extended that for 21 kilometers and I extended that for cycling also. I want to do a 150 kilometers cycling. I said if I'm able to do 50 kilometers on that day, on that day I would be able to do 150 kilometers. So if you split your thoughts into 3 buckets, right? One bucket will be a very highly energetic bucket which says that, hey, this will surely work. And then the second bucket would be like, I don't know whether it will work or not. And the third bucket will surely say it will not work. And to me, that is a good place to be. Rather than putting all your eggs into one basket saying that, hey, now I'm very sure that it will work. Or and at the same time, you can't be pessimistic also, right? You can't be, if you feel that this product is not going to work, nobody else can save you. Your product cannot be saved. The product manager has to be the most energetic person in the room to prove that your product is going to work. Otherwise, it will not work. So, in my opinion, if I have to summarize all of these things, right? A lot of this is about building 0 to 1 products is about conviction. It's to make sure that you are on the right track. Second part of product building is to ensure that you launch something. It's okay to launch rather than doing a PhD project. And third part of the project is to let go some of these things, right? We, as product managers, a lot of us have that ego saying that I know this will work, but it might not work. And you will have to let go some of these things. And when you let go, that is exactly how you let go your kid to a teacher, because you know that the teacher would be a better person to judge the kid. So yeah, I think that's largely what I had. Any questions?
So you did mention around following your saying, like, so when you have multiple ideas, right? You said like there are cases you will not have data. There will be scenarios where you will not have much data, which means you will need to just follow your gut. In a typical startup setting, right? What I've seen even in some of the clients who we deal with, right? So you will need at least say yes, you have multiple ideas, but yeah, you need some form of validation,
right,
to bet on a specific idea. Right. How do you go about that validation?
So that validation, right? Some of these things have to be spoken about to customers. Who are your customers, and what is that one feature that when you're building this product, is that product better than what your competitors have? Okay, if they are better than what your competitors have, what is that one thing that you feel that it's better? Okay, and if it's a new category, for example, Odon, right? Odon, which is the rental jewelry that we are talking about, it is a new category. We didn't have anything. We just went ahead with the perception saying that yeah, there are people renting out cars on Zoom Car. There are people renting out apartments. Airbnbs is becoming famous. Like, we feel that jewelry will also be rented out. Okay, so.
Sorry. So in this case, right, so what you're saying here is, so you're talking about a business model.
Correct.
You have an existing business model.
Correct.
But in that existing business model, you are identifying
new features.
A new opportunity in that business. Okay, renting jewelry. Right now, I think you've been selling jewelry. Now you're saying like renting jewelry. So this concept of renting jewelry, people intention to rent jewelry, did you do any research? Did you do any study to collect this data?
Yeah, a lot of studies. For example, in down south, right? If you go for a wedding, the wedding jewelry is a huge thing. There are like several. If you go to Mylapore, there are a lot of shops. I was getting married around that time, so I went with my wife to all these stores to find out what do they do, how do they rent out this jewelry, and these are not fine jewelry, right? These are covering jewelries, as they would call in Chennai, and but it's priced at very very high price point. The cost of jewelry is about 40,000 rupees average piece. They would charge you about 5,000 6,000 rupees. Okay, and now we were trying to build a replica of that model online, but it was fine jewelry. It was pure diamonds. And the cost is 5.5 lakh rupees, right? An average product would cost anywhere between 2 to 3 lakh rupees.
Okay.
And that's where, and that person would ask for your ID proof. You just have to give your ID proof.
Okay.
There is no security deposit, concept of security deposit. You just have to give your ID proof, and then he will know that you're not going to do anything with that jewelry. It's a wedding jewelry, you wear it and then you come and give it back to him. Okay, but here the concept is very different. I can't just trust somebody on the ID proof. We even ensured that that we would deliver these products only at their homes. We would not do it in public places. We had set of protocol for the person who's going to deliver the product, right? We wanted them to check with the security person there in terms of like general checks here and there, right? How long have they been living? And unlike, so Furlenco is also a very interesting, similar model, right? People started renting furniture. When we spoke to some of them at Furlenco, they said that for us, the problem is not, they can't run away with your furniture. But for us, it's a very different problem. Each business attracts different problems. But for them, it is a different problem. They said that it takes, if they don't give me the money, I'll have to go and get go to their place and take that sofa and then
Was there a question?
I think Monica has a
Monica
question.
raised.
Monica has a question. Monica?
She's on mute.
Yeah. Hi. Hey, I'll just share some thoughts. Okay, I just wanted to know whether I've also gone through it and you know what you did and all. So I used to get random product ideas when I do something. When I face a problem, I'm like, why not? There's an app like this. I used to think I have a small notebook. I keep writing. I come back home and I search for it. It will be already there. Some country, someone would have already done. And if I have any idea, I tell my friend, hey, I'm thinking, no, this will be nice. It'll be like, this is very similar to the other, thing which is a very famous product. If you think about it, they're all similar. I'm like, but it didn't strike me. So what happened is, it's purely my opinion. I think the world is saturated with ideas. You can't have any unique idea anymore. So there's a kind of feel like when I say that I'm gonna try out something, they're like, is it not like copying a product? And I feel like that is what you can do anymore, because if you think of anything, anyone, anywhere in the world, they have done something. If you Google something, it's already there. Maybe they're not as famous as the common apps that we use, but it feels like everything is already out there. So how do you, cross the initial block and try out something that you wanted to do?
No, true. I totally agree, right?
I was having that feeling, but
it's there for a lot of people, right? I have my own Google Keep where I've listed down all the ideas that I have, and then I would say, hey, this idea went live, and there were times that me and my colleague used to discuss, saying that, hey, why can't we build this feature on Ola? And then 1 week later, Ola would launch this feature, and then I would go and ask him, did you go and tell Ola? So, but at the same time. Like if you've seen how the ecosystem or the app ecosystem or generally digital product ecosystem has evolved over the last, it's a very new business, right? I mean, it's all of this has happened after iTunes and Android came in, right? iPad and like iPhone and the Android phone started coming in, right? It's just 15 years, like or 2007 to 2008 types. That's when all of this got launched. So over the last 15 years, there are a lot of other products that are happening, but we've not really bothered about it. But if you ask me, the biggest revolutionary products that has happened over the last few years, I would say Airbnb. I would say Snapchat, not even Instagram, right? Snapchat was the pioneer, and then Instagram tried just copied it, right? Similarly, TikTok, and then probably UPI in that sense. So a lot of these things are like big products. It's not that we don't have products, but these are all genuinely big scale products, right? Even for that matter, Aadhaar is a great product in that sense. Aadhaar is probably the first billion user product in the world. So we have a lot of these products. It's just that ours is very limited to saying that we feel that this app is there, there is a, that's where you'll have to differentiate whether it is a business or a product or a feature. Most of the times we think about features, and because it is features, you would realize that somebody is going to build on top of it.
And we tend to think that a feature is a USP, but
Correct.
anybody can
build that feature.
Yeah.
And you might think that, oh, Google cannot build this, but Google can build it.
Yeah.
And we generally think that big companies cannot build this product or big companies cannot build this feature, but yeah, they can.
Just to add on there, I think on Monica's point, normally many of these products earlier used to solve some problems, right? Like problems of customers. So those can be pain points to start with. I think later on, like as either that industry or that market like not saturates, but kind of addresses those pain points, then it moves towards the sophisticated features, right? Like then you get products for handling or addressing user sophistication needs. So I think that doesn't have a end, isn't it? So your pain points can be solved by some products in the market, but sophistication for a human point is like endless. So you can keep producing apps and products that can like increase that mark above on the existing products. So because I also had that similar kind of thoughts very earlier, like whatever we think are already there somewhere out there for sure. I also started believing it at some point. Then I think realized there are different routes of like the problem statement, maybe the lens that we are seeing through, right? Changing that kind of helps, because there could be multiple perspectives to that same problem. So that kind of helped, at least personally in the past, not for product building as such, but in terms of like innovation, you can say that.
Thank you, Bala, for sharing that.
Yeah, so I have a question. So we talked about building a product from zero to one or something. So parallelly, there would be a mindset shift that might be happening in parallel also, right? So how do you align yourself with this mindset shift or something? It's not going to be static.
Right.
So whatever the research you do, right? So by the time you develop a product, let it be a short term, 6 months or a 1 year or something. By the time there will be a mindset shift which could have happened across the customers or their behavior as well. So how do you align your product to that, or like how do you adapt your product to that? It's not like when you release it, so it can become obsolete or something.
Correct.
So how do you handle that? Like it's not where the train has stopped, you are like kind of building a product. It's not going to happen like that.
True. I agree. Like most of the times, I'll give an example of how flyovers are built in India, right? Flyovers are built in India when they start building it 5 years earlier. At that time, they would not project it for what, by the time they launched that flyover, it would have already been crowded. We are going to have more cars, we are going to have more bikes. Okay, we never envisioned that change that would happen, at least with respect to flyovers. But look at how a metro is building, right? It takes that similar amount of time, but it solves a larger problem. It solves a problem in a better way. So you think about here, building a flyover versus building a metro, right? That's the difference. You know that metro work is going to take a longer time. So it's okay to take that longer time when you know the outcomes for some of these things are going to be big enough. Okay, but at the same time, once you build a flyover, you can't really change it. You can't really. So that is the advantage of having some products where it depends on the product, right? It depends whether you want to build that product thinking about scale, and over 2 years, right? For example, something like COVID happens. You can't really predict some of these things. So, but at the same time, you'll also have to evolve. And that's where you start moving from the 0 to 1 hat to 1 to 10 and 10 to 100 hat, right? When your product is when you move from 0 to 1, from 1 to 10, right? At that time, you can't have bugs in your product. Okay, that is crime. You can't have bugs in your product. 0 to 1, you can live with it. No, the number of users are very limited. You can play around with it. But when it is 1 to 10, you will have to be very conscious about it. You should have sleepless nights if your product has bugs. So that's where you evolve, right? You keep asking the right questions at that time, asking whether is this solving the problem, and you add features on top of it. And then you realize that, is that feature good enough? Is it solving that problem? Is that solving that problem? If it is not good enough, is there something else that your competitor might do, a better feature? Okay. And that's where you'll have to keep looking for inspirations from your competitors. I wouldn't want to call copy, but take inspiration. Take Instagram versus Snapchat for the same example, right? Snapchat's story is a feature for Instagram's. Okay, their business is a feature for them. Instagram had video. Similarly, take for TikTok, right? TikTok is a feature. Reels is a feature in Instagram. It's not a business. For TikTok, it is a business. But for a bigger company, it is just a feature.
So something related to this 0 to 1 and 1 to 9. So typically in the market, if you say like a product manager, what are the different kind of skills that a product manager who's like working in a 0 to 1 kind of an organization and someone who's kind of 1 to n, right? So what are the key differences in skills or even persona of a product manager that is required?
Yeah, I mean, different people have different skills. Like I said, an ideal product manager in my mind should be a combination of arts and science, right? Where you say that 50% of it, that person has to be very artistic, 50% is to be very, very rational and data oriented. But when it comes to a 0 to 1 product, right? That person I feel should be little more artistic than rational, because a rational mind will never allow you to think after a certain point of time. It will always tell you, no, this won't work. Whereas a 1 to 10 product manager, right, has to be little more scientific in approach. They have to feel that, are you building the right thing? You have very limited resource, right? Are you building the right thing for it? Okay, a 0 to 1 product manager also has to think about it, but you have the liberty to build a wrong thing. In a 1 to 10 product manager, right, if there are 10 things that you want to build, you might not be able to build. You don't have that bandwidth to build that. So you have to prioritize the top 2 things, and the success rate for those 2 products has to be 100%. Your judgment on that has to be good. You have the liberty to build a wrong thing.
I think it's an echo.
Okay, sorry.
You can go ahead. Yeah.
Okay. And for a 0 to 1 product, you can build that wrong thing, right? It's okay. If you build 10 things, 7 can go wrong, but the 3 should be very good.
Okay.
In 1 to 10, if you can build only 2 things, and the chance of success for that has to be 90%.
Okay. Thank you, Sundar. There's one question from the participant. They're asking, taking an enterprise product from 0 to 1 versus taking a P2P or B2C from 0 to 1. I somewhere feel both are different ball game. What is your take on this pointer?
Yeah, very true. So when you're building an enterprise product, right, versus a P2C product, most of the products that I've built is in the B2C space. I'm building few products which are in the SaaS based or B2B model. it's very different, right? Your first few customers can make or break it. Okay, and the relationship that you have with them is going to be very, very important. You might not have the stories of add-on that I'm talking about, right? This customer's behavior is this way, that customer's behavior is this way, because here the person is using your product, or the company is using your product because it has to solve that problem for them on day one. On day one, it has to solve that problem. It can't have a 80% solving problem product. Okay, but for the customer, you can go and tell the customer it's okay, it did not work, okay, try again. You can do all of these things. So in a enterprise product, it's very, very different. It's a completely different ball game, right? You will have to be very sure on whether your product is really 10x better than the others. Your chances of targeting another customer in a B2C product, say same customer, is very, very high. Somebody might want to give it another try as well. It might not work the first time, but sometime later, after 6 months, somebody else would have used it and they would say that, hey, did you use this app? He may say, no, I used it on day one, it did not work. No, now they have a lot of interesting features. You should try it. But this doesn't happen in an enterprise product. Your first impression is really the best impression. You can't go wrong in your first impression.
Thank you, Sundar. I think some Shazia has also agreed. She said that B2B product customers are much less so forgiving. And there's actually one more question from Srivatsav around. I think Srivatsav is agreeing on the point on building a right product versus building an easy product.
Right.
100% agreed on Sundar's point of view on building right product. On other hand, won't it compromise the deliverability conversions? Any tips on converging faster when building a right product?
Yeah, so you have to take that call, right? If you feel that you want to build something in 6 months, you're not going to build the best possible product in 6 months. But if you feel that, and we don't have time, right? Honestly, timing is the most important part. If you're going to miss that 6 months bucket, you can't keep building it again and again. So you build it and then you add features on top of it. So you will have to clearly say that, hey, I am launching on so-and-so date, or this is the bare minimum feature that I want to go ahead with it. And this, I think, will solve major problem. Okay, it might not solve all the problems, but yes, that's how every product is, right? You take any products that are launched, on day one, they did not have all the features. You take any product, right? Any consumer facing product, you will have different, you keep adding features on top of it. Then you realize that, oh, my customer is doing this also. Okay, then why can't I do this? Oh, my customer is doing this, why can't I build another problem? My customer is asking for this. Keep adding more such features on top of it. So you will have to take a call. It is a very tough call, right? You know that this is the bare minimum that I'm going with, and I am ready to compromise on that. And I would want to have a 70% or 80% successful product on day zero, and let's see how does it go.
Hope that answers the question of Sri itself. There's one more question that I wanted to check. Actually, two questions. One is that around the 0 to 1 building products, right? Like, how do you actually validate those some of the riskiest assumptions? I think that's what Joshua was also asking. With respect to the carrot lane also, right? Just trying to understand the sense of the market, right? Like, the rentals with respect to jewelries and fine jewelries, not actually imitations. So how do you go about validating that, whether there's a willingness to buy and there's a willingness to accept from the market or the group of customers, segmenting that you were doing at the beginning?
So you have focus group discussions, right? And that trigger comes from some part of saying that, hey, I had this problem, right? Or somebody else had this problem, and that's how most of these B2C problems are, right? You would have had this problem, or your relatives would have had this problem, or your friends would have had this problem. Most of B2C problems are very personal problems. And you know that, but you should also know that whether it is your problem or a lot of people's problem. That is a call you'll have to take. Sometimes it is your problem, and not everybody would have that problem. And that kind of validation you will have to do. So when you're building a problem that you want to solve, right, that's where the product manager's ego comes into picture, right? Because you feel that I think it is the biggest problem in the world, but it might not be. It is just your product manager's ego that is creating that problem. Not everybody will have that problem. So you realize whether that's your problem or everybody's problem. If a lot of people have this problem, then you feel that yes, this is a problem worth considering. On day one, you can't talk about, oh, this is my TAM, this is my target group, and all of those things. It might be very difficult. You might not even have that. But if you think you're solving the right problem, okay, and if you feel that the existing solution and your solution is like it might not be 10x better. Even if it is like 2-3 times better, then you should go ahead with that problem.
Sure, Sundar. I think there are two related questions to that. One is follow-up question, how do we ensure it is the right problem? The other one is how do we validate user experience in a 0 to 1 B2C product before launch? I think that's what you've answered.
Yeah.
Right?
So
How to ensure it is the right problem?
Yeah, so solving the right problem is the toughest part, right? Because, and you might not have data to prove some of these things. You would maximum talk to about 10 people. You would have an idea, you would talk to 10 people and you might think that 7 people had this problem. Okay. But that's where the question that I ask myself is, why would this product fail? You should ask this question to yourself. Why would this fail? If you answer this question right, you would have confirmation bias, correct. So you would very surely know that you would think about that pessimistic mind comes into picture, right? Where you say that, hey, this can fail because this is just my problem. There is not really a problem. This could be because there is no audience for this problem. Okay, so you would answer all of these questions. It could be a supply problem. It could be a demand problem. There is not enough demand for it. I'll have to create demand for it. I'll have to burn money for it. Okay, today I can go and build an e-commerce website. I tell everybody that if you have to build a D2C brand today, all of us are targeting the same set of users. Okay, so you will have to be significantly better than any other brand. How are you going to acquire your customers? Any D2C brand, the biggest challenge is going to be customer acquisition. Okay, and if you're going to acquire that customer, why would the customer move from you to somebody else or somebody else to you? So the chances of failing, if you answer that question right, you will be able to get an answer on whether the problem that you're solving is the right problem or not.
Okay. Vinita and Bala, I hope that answers your question. Do you want to check something? And Monica, you as well, on the confirmation bias, do you want to check anything? I think it's answered. Okay.
Divakar, on mine.
Yeah, Bala.
Yeah, I just want to validate on the usability part of it. Like, do we really need to validate usability aspects of it? Because I understand in the problem validation, right? Like, let's consider we are solving the right problem. For a B2C, do we need to consider the user experience in the 0 to 1 product? Is there ways to do it? And is it important to do it?
Yeah, so my UX principle is just 2 things. I don't remember the name of the book, but maybe I'll share it with Divakar. It clearly says that your experience of building product or customers' understanding of building product comes from the fact that of how they perceive other products. Okay, that's point number 1. Point number 2 is, and how others perceive that product is largely on how they use that product. Okay, so everybody's expectation on, let's say, if you have to build a video app, right? Customer thinks YouTube in mind. That's the bare minimum that they have. Yeah. And because you change the UX, okay, you change the UX, it will not work because you try to make it more fancier. You try to say that, hey, I think customers will change. Okay, it's very difficult for customers to change. Yeah. Because they are so used to building products or using products in that sense. So if you ask me on UX point of view, right, on usability, don't make it very complex, right? Because it's, and this is also something that I tell, the product manager or the product team has to do all the hard work, not the customer. For the customer, if the product manager or the product team does all the hard work, the customer makes it easy. If you do the easy work, the customer has to do all the hard work.
Yeah.
So how can you make it easy for the customer? And if you make lot of these things frictionless, okay, how do you will be able to solve that problem? There are now tools which record video sessions of people on the app, and then it can tell you where they are dropping off, what is happening. I think there are enough and more tools around that. You can look at a lot of data on why somebody is not doing this, right? And if you're building 0 to 1, you should be talking to your first 100 customers. You should be talking. You should talk to all of these customers and know why they have dropped off from this.
Okay.
You can't have a dedicated customer support team. You are the support. You will have to support the customer.
Okay.
You will surely know what is the usability challenge that they are having. And if possible, something that we have started doing a lot these days, because we have the flexibility of doing it from our stores, we now do a lot of our usability testings at the store. We ask customers to do some of these things and make them record that video. And then we realize that that close button is not working. It is not working on their phones. You go and test it, and because we did not anticipate the browser that they were using, we did not anticipate the model that they were doing, but you're losing customer, right? And this might not come out in your analytics also.
Okay, I think there's one more question from Monica. Monica is asking, have you used any no-code tools for your products? Was it helpful?
No, I have not used any no-code tools, but we wanted to, we were evaluating some of these things because when I was building products as a side hustle, right? At that time we were evaluating some of these things, but at Carrot Lane or at Minglebox, we're not. Minglebox there's no code at that time of no code. It was all code. But I have not used any of these things.
Okay. I think it's interesting, Sundar, because you are, you don't actually create a lot of layers between the product and the customer, right? If you want to check something with your customer, more like a Kirana store or something, you're asking, hey, what's your experience? Do you like it or not? So yeah. I think that kind of casualness between the product managers and
so that you should not have a support team when you're building 0 to 1 products. There is no support team. The product manager has to be the support.
Yeah, get to the field work. Yeah, that's true. And one question that I have, I mean, while we are imagining the product journey itself as 0 to 1, 1 to 10, and then 10 to n or infinity or something, there's one question that I have. How do you imagine the customer's experience? For example, the customer also will be having their own scale of experience, right? 0 to 1, 1 to 2. For example, if I'm a first day user in Spotify, my expectation in Spotify would be different. Similarly, on day 2 and day 3, and then after a month or after a year, my experience, what I'd be expecting from Spotify would be completely different. So how do you think that product has to suit to the needs of customers' journey from day 0 to something else?
Yeah, so very valid question, right? If you're building a feature and if more than 5% of them are using it, right, your feature is a hit. Okay. And all these people who are going to use it are your power users. And not everybody has to use your feature. So to go to homepage, different people will choose different paths on your app. You don't have to, and we can't force the customer to do certain things. Different customers will have their different journey in the apps, okay, and you will have to see that are you ensuring that that journey is frictionless. That is how you will have to evaluate.
Okay. And there's the questions from people about the slides. If it would be possible for you to share the slides.
Yeah, I can share it with you.
Okay, sure. Yeah. So the slides will be shared. People will be just posting the slides and also the recording. Everything would be available in YouTube as well. And whoever has registered for the series, you'll also get the YouTube recording. So within the YouTube recording description, you can also check for the slides. Okay. All right. Any other questions? We are already 4 minutes past. Any questions? Anything that we want to ask to Sundar? just connect to Sundar anytime. It need not have to be a really formal conversation, because we had such lovely stories from Sundar. I mean, those are all premium stories, I would say. So you can just talk to Sundar, connect with Sundar in LinkedIn, and you'd really have a good experience. And I think just as a token of gratitude, we want Lalit and Joshua to give a small token of gratitude to Sundar Kaur.
Okay.
So nice. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sundar. Thanks for coming.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Joshua.
Yeah, there's one question from Vinita. One question which I always find answer to. I would like to know your opinion. Why do you think people moved from Orkut to Facebook to Instagram? That's such a nice question.
Yeah. So, what is the problem, right? I mean, Orkut, when it started, everybody was there on Orkut, right? And one of the reasons why Orkut failed is because of spam. They never focused on that. They never thought that spam would be a big concern for people. And why people moved from Facebook to Instagram is Facebook started having this problem that the younger people, the teens, were never registering on Facebook. Today, if I go on Facebook, it's my mom liking her fair friends' pictures. Okay, it's my mom, or like the older ones are going. So now Facebook has become a great tool to target people who are more than 50.
Yeah.
It's probably the best possible tool. At the same time, I'm sure there's going to be something else where people will move also, right? From Instagram, and the needs have become yeah. Yeah, maybe that's time for us to move from Instagram to some other platform then. So yeah, that is how it will evolve. People want to have a close network, and I'm sure all these products also evolve, right? When you want to build some of these products, the way you had envisioned that and that's the reason why Facebook acquired Instagram, right? If you think about it, if Instagram was not acquired by Facebook, Instagram would not be valued. I mean, Facebook would not be valued at this much money. And that's the great thing that Facebook did, right? They bought both WhatsApp and Instagram at the right time.
I think Instagram is more influencer based. Facebook was more real.
That's exactly why people wanted, actually. That's what people want now. People want to see influencers and get influenced. And that was something that Facebook actually missed out on. They really didn't see the creator community. There were a lot of these creators they didn't focus on.
More connection.
Correct. It became, after a point of time, it became like your college group or at that level, right? And those people moved into WhatsApp. You created a WhatsApp group, so why would you need that? Yeah. That's how they have to make money, unfortunately. But I'm sure there is something else that will come up, and Instagram, we'll move from Instagram. Maybe once our moms move to Instagram, we'll move to some other place.
I have a question, maybe your perspective on it. Is it the customer need which makes the product evolve, or is it the product need which makes customer evolve?
Yeah.
Good question.
Very good question, right? There are several times you don't have a market, right? You don't have a market. You will have to create that market.
Yeah.
Okay. And there are several times that there is a market, but nobody has solved that problem. For example, Airbnb, there was a market. Nobody solved that problem. Okay, Airbnb is a great example of saying that, hey, that's why I feel it's a revolutionary product, right? Because Airbnb solved that problem. Nobody really knew that, hey, I could rent out my vacant room and make money from that. Okay, and if you ask, was this a problem? Yes, this was a problem. But was it a pressing problem? No, nobody really bothered about it. But a lot of times it is this, let's take UPI for an example, right? Because there was demonetization, there were so many other things, they had to do something to solve this, and that's how it started. But now it's become a bigger agenda also, right? That UPI is in itself is a great product, and now it is evolved to several things. But most of the times it is I would say it's the product that creates demand. Okay, and then once you create the demand, right, people will all automatically move because there is FOMO that, oh, you're there, I'm not here. And that's how all of these evolved, right? You take communication, right, from landlines to cell phones to whatever to where we are right now. All of these things, the product came first and then people moved.
Yeah. And that's a good question what Lalit was asking, because if I could just draw parallels to Instagram and everything, right? The product is in one way or the other way, it's either making people getting used to it or creating that zone of addiction. And the same set of people are also aspiring for something more, something better. And if something else is coming into the play, then there's a complete migration to that actually. So yeah. Good. Vinita has one more question. I agree it's the product that creates demand, but Uber, Ola, InDrive, Snap, Cabs all provide same service. Is it just about marketing sometimes?
Yeah. I mean, we joined Uber because it was the first ride was free, and that's how we made it a habit, right? All of these things at the day. So there is this analogy in product which is called the toothbrush analogy, right? How many times? So brushing your teeth has become a habit. Now, can your app be like that? Can you open the app every day? Can you make it a habit? What is the first thing that most of us do? We open WhatsApp after waking up. It's become a habit now. Now there are a lot of people who would say that, no, I don't want to spend 1.5 hours driving. I would rather take an Uber. Okay, now that has become a habit for a lot of people. Was this there earlier? I mean, people are still commuting. People are still taking their two-wheelers, or they were still doing their autos and buses and all of those things. So it's a demand that the marketing that creates the demand, right? That's the job of the marketing team.
And I think in some places the demand is already well aware by the customer itself, and in other places they just tend to entice the customer, push them, and make them aware.
Correct. That's where the maturity of the product comes into picture. If there is already an existing demand, you just have to be there at the right time, right? Otherwise, you will have to be there. That's where the timing comes. Timing becomes very important. You will have to seed. You will have to seed that product. You will have to make it like really work. And that is a minimum 10-year thing. It takes a lot of time for you to be where you are.
Sundar, I have a question. So let's say we are building a product from 0 to 1. We got an idea and we are building the product, and all of a sudden we see a fast change in technology, Web 2 going to Web 3.0 and AI coming into picture. What do you think will be an impact for somebody who has an idea and building something, and then there is suddenly a fast technology change that is happening? What will be the impact for the product managers?
Yeah, so if we had not anticipated that on day one, then we are building something terribly wrong. And that's why I said we can't build products like a PhD, right? It can't be like a 5-year thing where you build products. And if you're building a product, you know that some of these things are going to come. You know that problems are going to happen. But at the same time, you will have to, like for example, like let's say Chat GPT, right? And now every chat bot, right? Every chat bot has become very redundant. Like probably till Chat GPT, everybody was trying to build a chatbot. Everybody had a chatbot which they said that it's going to solve that problem, huge problem. Now Chat GPT is literally, I'm assuming it is going to revolutionize it. The way at least Microsoft is going to talk about it. It's probably going to revolutionize the way it is. Okay, but at the same time, there are, for example, some of these bigger companies. I think Intercom had a bot with ChatGPT. They had their existing bot, and they were very quick to launch a ChatGPT product along with it. That's how quick you have to be. And some of Intercom's competitor might not do that. And if you're able to do that, I think that is where how fast you will have to build, right? that becomes a huge challenge. I would say launch and then quickly learn. You can't, and that's why I said on the day of launch, you are the most happiest person, but your happiness should be on that day, and then you just have to move back and go back and start working on day one. Did that answer my question? Answer your question, Ramanathan?
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Sundar. Any other questions, folks? We have already 14 minutes past. Anything else before we close? If there are no other questions, please take your time to give your feedback. There are just 3-4 questions, but we would really love to hear your feedback because we want to accommodate all your feedback in the next coming sessions as well, in terms of what are your interest in sessions and everything. So please give your feedback and come back to the next session, the next episode in March. We'll be expecting all your presence. Thank you so much. And on behalf of everyone, I think it's such a nice conversation because it didn't really look like, Sundar was telling something and we were all listening, but it was a listening mode and then it went into a conversing mode. So thank you so much.
I'm so glad that there are a lot of questions. Thank you guys. Thank you, Diwakar, for doing this. Thank you, ThoughtWorks. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Have a nice day. Thanks for your time. Take care.